Doing a quick video here to give you an idea of how combat works. We've got essentially right at the centre of the battlefield, we've got Bagration Alarm over there. We've got obviously the main forces here, and then those forces over there. So right in the centre, the French are attempting to punch through. They've got the Imperial Guards coming up behind. This is the 1st Division. The 1st Corps, and there's the 2nd Division of it here. They've got the Cavalry Reserve coming around here, so you can kind of see what they're attempting. But on the other hand, the Russians have their Imperial Guard here, massing here, potentially going for a swoop round there. So the way the combat works is like this. So I've got a unit here, and he has a C. That's C combat against this fellow here who's 4 morale. So what we do is the fellow with the 4 morale, the Russian guy, allied, was in line. So we have C combat against in line, and then we roll the D10 and look down here. But we check for modifiers. If you're in line, you would go up one level. So if the French were in line, that would be a B. And I've marked that. That's the most common sort of French, in-line French against the Allied lines, and that's the Allied line against the French line. So that's kind of the sort of I've taken that as the standard, just to help me reference where to look when I'm looking at this whole thing. So anyway, so we're actually here because he's in column, he's moving, and he's going for the bayonet charge after. So he doesn't get that bonus. He's not a break point, and he's not in square. That would shift the letter value, and you can see it in some places that's not going to make a difference. Now we go to column modifiers, firing at rear, flank, mass target, or the terrain. None of that is applicable here, so there's no other modifier. So we simply roll the die and check to see what happens. I roll 2 at once. That's for the French, and this is for the morale roll for the Allied unit, which is often coming after. Now that was unfortunate because the French rolled a 0. 0 is bad in the sense that we were on this column, the C, down here. So Allied infantry in line, C firing on, and we have a 0, no effect. If it got a 1, it would be a morale roll -1. So if it got a 1, that would be 6, and against the morale of that unit of 4, we would find him being 1 to 3 above morale. He would lose 1 morale level, so he would get shaken but take no losses. At a higher result, they will take a loss as well as a morale check. And there's an interesting kind of plateau, just to mention it here, in that here you take a morale check at +1. Here you take a loss, but then just a standard morale check. So often it's better to get this result than this, because units often have, some of the Allied ones are very weak in strength, but for example here they've got 7, 7, 6 strength, so they can take quite a few hits. So they could take, say, 3 hits, because you go to half hits it starts sort of being bad, before anything bad happens to them. But if their morale goes into 3 steps, they've routed it and they're running away. So you can see there's an odd kind of, well, like a dip in a sense, in that your morale doesn't get going from here, that's bad, then to here, it's not so bad morale-wise, but you're losing some men, but oh well, we'll shrug it off. When you get to 2 again, then that adds a +1 on the morale check, because the morale check is modified by the number -1. And there, I've never rolled that, never been on that column. That would be A fires. I think I haven't seen them. Maybe some artillery firing at cavalry in column, or infantry in square. So that was no effect. So let's move over to this fellow. Now he's got a marker on him and he's taken some losses, but he's still a C, and this fellow has morale of 5, but he's shaken, so we'll add 1 to his morale checks. So let's do the roll again, and we get a 7 and a 3. So he was firing in column again, so he didn't go up to a B. And on a 7, there we are, we have it the 1. So this fellow is going to take another hit. Oh, he's down. I think that must be a mistake, an artifact left over. No, so he was actually on 1 hit, so he should have had a breakpoint marker on. I'll have to take myself at face value there. Okay, so he should have had a breakpoint. So he only had 1 hit, and oh no, was it on 2? I can't remember now. I'll have to check the camera to see what it was before because I was talking. Well, I'm going to say he didn't have a hit because... no, it must have been... Yeah, okay, so I'm flipping him to a 1. It's all for demonstration purposes. Okay, so he's actually reached breakpoint, which is half of his... so at 2, yeah, 2, so it was a 1, wasn't it? Because he was breakpoint. Let's say he was a 2, and now he's a 1. He's reached breakpoint, which is half of his original strength. So we mark him with that, and he's shaken. So we go to his morale check. He rolled a 3 for morale, +1 for shaken, and also +1 for having reached breakpoint. So that makes that 5. And his morale itself was 5. So he actually made that morale check. He's okay from the fire combat. Now we have this fellow again, so we have the same situation. 7 on a 4, so we know that's 1 hit. So he's going to take a hit. I had a bit of confusion earlier because the rules suggest if you take a hit you put a 1 underneath and go up like that, but then the multi-hex markers, the multi-hex step losses start very high, and you don't have multi-hex step losses when they're down low like that, so it seemed to make sense. You're not often going to have 13 hits, but often they're going to have gone down, say, to 13 hits, so it made sense considering what was provided to go the other way. So I started one way and went the other way, which may have been the confusion that I had there. Okay, so whoops, so he's on 2, and his morale check was 4. His morale is 5, he's fine, no other modifiers. So then we go to the last one in the row there. Where are we? Here. So it's the same thing, Seafarer. And we get an 8 and a 2. Let's just check. The 8 on the C column there is still 1. Okay, and so he's going to take a hit. Hang on. So that's that fellow firing on that fellow. So this poor fellow is going to get 3 units firing on him. So he's going to take another hit. So he now goes down to 1. So now he's reached his break point. I expect he's going to rout. Also, now he's reached the break point, we need to mark him on the break on the sheets here, because they are the right 4th column, 1st division. So we find the 4th column here. 4th column, 1st division, 2nd division. One of them has already reached break point or been eliminated, and we mark another off here, and you see when they reach, when 5 of those are eliminated or broken, then the whole division is broken. But I'll do that off camera because I've only got so many hands. So anyway, moving on. So his morale check was 2. Then he's got the break point, makes it 3, but his morale is 5, so he does stand nicely. I'm not going to put him back yet because we've got this last fellow here also firing on him. I'm pretty sure he's a C2. Yeah. So that's a nasty situation. Another 8, so we know he loses another 1, which means he's eliminated. So he's gone. And interestingly enough, there's no advance after combat. Obviously not after fire like that, but then we reach the after that whole division has done its fire, it can go to the melee, and in that we have three choices: either infantry bayonet. If infantry are in towns or woods, then you would do assault attack rather than bayonet attack, or cavalry charge. So in this case we go to infantry bayonet attack. So first we say who we're going to do it, so we go all along the line and we say, okay, he's going to try him, and this is the odd thing, is that these guys, there's nobody there, so there's nobody for them to melee. So rules as written, they just have to stand there. But I said that you can, in this situation, one of them can move forwards, with bayonets, into the fixed with bayonets into that empty space, kind of following up their attack as the rest of the line does it. So anyway, I forgot a crucial thing while I was speaking, is anyone who's being fired at, they get a fire back, so we better do that, and it's immediate, and it's important that it's immediate in case of certain morale checks. So this fellow's E against the column, and so coming to here we see French in line this thing, but French in column on this line, and so E, we're looking down here, so I roll the die. That's a 0 for the Allies. They're the French, they're the Allies. So again, that's no effect. That was unfortunate. Then this fellow will have a go, and he was a D. And then the fellow who got wiped out was also a D. So we have two Ds. We got 6 against a 2. So a D on 6 is M+1. So he's firing against him, M+1. So the morale roll was 2, so +1 is 3. But then because he's already unsteady, that's another 2, so that's 3, 4, 5. But his morale's 5, so he just made it. That was fortunate. Otherwise, you go from shaken to unsteady and unsteady to routed. So he would have routed back if he hadn't rolled so low. And then the last roll for that fellow is a 6 on a 2, so that's exactly the same again, isn't it? So the guy that was here, they get, that's considered they're firing simultaneously. So he rolls a 2, 3, 4, and he makes the morale check 5 because it's I rolled a 6, wasn't it, which was M+1. Okay, so that was the return fire. Notice he doesn't get to fire on him because he wasn't fired at. In his turn he can fire. So for example, in his turn, those two could both fire on him. He could only return fire on one of them. So it kind of evens out like that. So to the bayonet charge. So it's not going to be so great for these guys because they're unsteady. So we'll see what happens. But essentially, he's going to charge him and he's going to charge him. And I'll do him first because it's going to be more likely a better result. So he's got 6 morale, he's got 4 morale. So that's the declarations. Then attackers pre-melee morale check. And we have some modifiers like this here. So this is going to be for the French, and that will be for the Allied one, which is the defenders morale check. But French goes first, and if he fails this, then we don't need to bother to get to that, because that's this defender's pre-melee morale check. In fact, I should probably save that because I need to do firing in between. So if the French guy gets it, he's on a 1. These modifiers here, each supporting stack, so those ones are adjacent, and he's got 1 adjacent to him, so he gets -1. That's it, he's trying to roll below his... It's not in line, he's not shaking. See, if he's in line, it's not so great for moving into melee, but in column you don't get that. Okay, so he's made it. So he made the check, so then the defender gets to return fire. So or a skirmisher could move away. So I'll take that as the fire roll. So that was E, that fellow as it happens. E on 5 is a morale check, so we'll need to roll again. That's a 0, so that's easily passed. So now we go to the defender's pre-melee morale check, and he rolled a 3. He's not attacked in rear flank, he's not in skirmish, he gets flank support, but not assault, so you know not inside villages and towns. Where are we? Here. So we're looking at this unit, he's got flank there and there, so he gets +2, +1 for each of those, so he's, or -1 rather, so that's 1. But he's not got the legionnaires' hex, not a square, he's in line, so that's +1, so he's on 2. It's not shaken or anything, or unsteady, etc., etc. So he's on 2. So he passed it. So that means he stands. If he hadn't passed it, he would retreat back and he would move in. So he passed. The attacker passed. He could melee. The defender passed. He stands, and so that's the end of it for a bayonet charge. Otherwise, it disordered, retreat, lose, etc., depending on how badly you miss it. Let's try another one. So, next one's not going to be so great, probably for the French, but he has got some support. So the French player is unsteady. So this is his morale check. He's on a 0. He adds 2 for unsteady, and then he gets -2 for these 2 supports. So he made it. Does the allied guy? He rolled 8. That's not going to be it, is it? So he's 8. He's shaken, and he was breakpoint. So he rolled 8. He's got -2 for his. No, only -1 because he's only got flank support on one side. So that's a 7. Shaken. So that's 8. And so breakpoint doesn't count for that, interestingly enough. It counts on normal morale roll. So I guess in this desperate situation they're just worried for their lives more like. But anyway, we have a 7, I think I said, and his morale is 5, so that's 2 above. He loses 1 SP, disordered, retreats at -1 morale level. So that was this fellow, so he's going to lose another SP, he's gone. Otherwise he would retreat, be disordered, which means you flip him. We've got a little D, so slight difference. They're not in line and not in column essentially. And he would go from shaken to unsteady, but as it is, he's eliminated. So then you see advance or pursuit, so we would continue going down. There's no melee, it's just one moving before the other's bayonet charge. There's actual melee if you are doing the assault in a village or woods or in cavalry charge, and only in those would you get advance or pursuit as well. So in this case it ends up like that, and so that is the end of that little demonstration.